All right, and welcome to the most compelling quarterly report update that I've done since I started this channel. Man, that is very strong to say, but there's just so much to talk about, guys. And I'm literally in this video going to be breaking down each segment. It's going to be one full length. You can just sit back and listen. You can go to the part that you're most interested in, but there's a big story to tell, and I'm going to tell it. Okay. So, really excited about this because the numbers are super compelling. And if you've been watching our channel for any amount of time, you know we do this weekly. And we do it weekly because we want to compound and kind of keep track. And it's been slowly and steadily going in this direction. And now we've got some numbers that mimic everything that's been compounding over the last couple of years. And I'm excited to bring it to you. There's so many storylines, and I'm just going to get right into it. So we're going to start with 30A East End. So 30A East End, guys. So we know what segment that is by this time, right? That is the area from Inlet Beach to WaterColor. Includes WaterColor, okay? So that's what we're talking about right here. So let's break it down. This is Q2 2026, and we're comparing it to Q2 2025. So 38 East End, okay? Single family homes, number of sales, 223 versus 139 last year. Guys, what kind of increase is that? 223 2026 versus 139 last year. That's up 60% in the number of transactions year over year, Q2. Okay. Sold volume, $564 million in sold residential homes on the 38 East End in Q2 2026 compared to $369 million last year. That's up 53%. Okay. Average sales price, 2026, $2.529 million versus $2.659 last year. That's down 5%. Stand by on that. That's a crucial point I'm going to come back to. Average days on market, 102 days in 2026 versus 115 last year. That's down 11%. Active listings. Currently, in Q2, there were 427 active listings. Last year, there were 563 active listings, down 24%. Months of inventory. That means based on the sell-through rate, how long it's taken us to sell them with the inventory, how many months of inventory? 2026 Q2, 7 months, down from 13. That's a 45% change. Listen, here's the key point on this one, guys. Number of transactions up 60%. I don't care where you are. That is amazing. But here's the storyline with 38 East End. The average sales price went down a bit. Sold volume, way up there. Number of transactions, way up there. Inventory, down. Taking us less time to do it. But you know why? The sellers got right. And I preach on my channel each week, bring you each week, hey sellers, the buyers are there. If you just find the sweet spot, they will buy. They're not looking for under market. The numbers show they're buying at market, and sellers adjusted. It went down 5% on the average sales price, but man, the buyers ate through some inventory on 38 East End. That is a monster Q2 for 38 East End. Inlet Beach to Grayton Beach was absolutely rocking in number of transactions. Amazing stuff. So the story's there, right? Story's there. Number of condo sales. Let's see if it matched. 33 this year, last year, 21, up 57%. Sold volume up 185%. So what's that mean for the average sales price? The average sales price on 38 East End for condos went from 1.3, went from 753,000 last year to 1.3 this year. Amazing, up 80%. Super interesting, right, guys? 38 East End is one that we talk about all the time because it's been the most active. But last quarter, it kind of had this stall out. And the stall out was, I think everything was just adjusting kind of in price. Didn't go down much. We're talking about 5%. I think they just got right. You know what I mean? They just got right with it. Okay. Let's keep going. Gulffront, there's not much to see. Gulffront transactions, 10 versus 8 last year. Okay. Condo sales, though, 32 sales this year on the Gulffront and condo sales versus 18 last year. That's up 78%. Guys, for 38 East End, here's the main point. For 38 East End, the number of transactions went up in every segment. Okay? That's the main point. Let's talk about 38 West End. Let me zoom in a little bit. 38 West End, does it follow suit? Q2 2026, they did 150 sales. Last year at this time, 127 sales. That's up 18%. Still amazing, but unfairly when you're comparing it to the East End, it doesn't seem that much, but going up 18% on the number of transactions is amazing. Good job, West End. Sold volume, 2026, 128 million sold in Q2. Last year, 91 million. That's up 40%. So listen, this is going to be the tale of two different ends of town. Then what does that mean for average sales price if those two things were in place? Average sales price, 2026, 1,588, 1,588,000, up from 1,340 last year. That's up 19%. So 38 West End went up in the number of transactions, not as much as 38 East End, but they still went up 18%, but they also increased their average sales price by 19%. That's opposite of the East End, who had to come down 5% to make that happen. You see that storyline? And that's what we're talking on the same road, guys. That means from everything past WaterColor down through Dune Allen, that's how that performed. I think that's a very steady and amazing job by the West End. Let's look at months of active listings. 255 this quarter, 2026 Q2. Last year was at 268, so just down 5% on the active listings. But man, they still went up on transactions and they went up on the price point. Really well done. Months of inventory down 16%. Super healthy. Again, when you're comparing it to East End, but the main thing I want to point out is West End increased their prices while still increasing the number of sales. That's incredible. So weigh those. Who had a better quarter, East End or West End? Because you got some give and take there. East End skyrocketed to the moon on the number of transactions and really drove down the inventory level, but the price point suffered a little bit. Not the case on the West End. Interesting, right? Condos, number of sales, 19 versus 10. That's up 90% on condos on the West End. Sold volume, up 80%. That means the average sales price, let's see, up 25%. West End, just keep doing it. Keep doing it. Love it. All right, West End Gulfront, really not much to speak of, although they did double up the number of Gulfront homes that sold. I did see that. 7 Gulfront home transactions in Q2 of 2026 for the West End. That's up 133% because they just didn't do many last year. What was that average sales price? $8 million. That's about right. That sounds right, doesn't it? Look at the condo sales. Number of condo sales on the Gulf front, 2026 in Q2, 14 versus 3 last year. That's up just a measly 367% on condo sales on the Gulf front on the West End. And it's super interesting because I've got some condos off the Gulf that aren't doing that great. But man, the Gulf front had a run in Q2 in both houses and condos on the West End of 38. Super compelling. Let's dive a little deeper in specific neighborhoods, and let's start with Rosemary Beach, Q2 2026, okay? Number of sales in 2026 Q2, 10 versus last year, 13. So they're actually down 20%. Isn't that interesting? We're talking about 38 East End being up 60%, but Rosemary was in that and they were down. Listen, that's a mild snapshot, right? Sold volume down 70% because of that. They had some big Gulfront homes this time last year, okay? So listen, this is why we take up these different pockets, right? Rosemary Beach, look at you, right? 38 East End, we're celebrating the fact of how many transactions, up 60% on the number of transactions. Rosemary, in that bubble, actually went down, okay? Let's take a look at Alys Beach. Number of sales, 24 in 2026 Q2 versus 18 last year. That's up 33%. Sold volume, up 154%. So what does that mean to the average sales price? Let's look and see. Average sales price in Q2 in Alys Beach, 2026, $9,800,000. That's up from $6.7 million last year. That's a 45% increase in the average sale of a home in Alys Beach year over year, Q2. Really good performance. Average price per square foot. This one's an amazing one for people to look at, and it's still starstruck by it. But average sales price in Q2 2026 on 14 transactions was $2,390 per foot, up from $1,840 last year. That's up 30%. Now, to be careful, there were some massive Gulfront homes that went down on Alys that's going to raise the bar on that, but still amazing numbers. Look at condos. Number of sales, 8 versus none. Trailing 6 months, 13 versus 1. Finally, I was kind of watching those Alys Beach condos, and a lot of them sat on the market. They didn't really move their price much, to be fair, which is the Alys way, but they got them done. I mean, a tremendous increase in moving those condos. That's all in Q. That was the previous 6 months in Alys, trailing 6 months, 13 sales versus 1 during the same time period last year. So I remember last year I had some people looking, and there were several opportunities out there, and they were just sitting. So well done, land. Actually down on land, but here's the trick with Alys and land. It's all about what they're offering, because a lot of that stuff is just coming from the developers, that they may release, and there might be minimal that's out there, right? So listen, story on Alys is they are rocking compared to this time last year. I saw that. We saw the numbers. We talk about it a lot, and some big Gulfront transactions, okay? Seacrest Beach. So Seacrest Beach, Q2 2026. I talk about this one a lot. Let's see what happened. Number of sales in Q2 2026, 18, up from 6 last year. My talking point last year, Q2 with Seacrest Beach was Casey was worried about the inventory level in Seacrest Beach. Not the case right here. Look at that. 18 transactions. That's up 200% from last year. Sold volume, 33 million, up from 9 million last year. That's up 260% almost, right? Average sales price, 1.8 million, up from 1.5 million last year, plus 20%. We were a part of that. We had a listing in there that closed over 2.8. We jumped on that party. Fantastic home. Had fun doing it. That was in Q2. Love it. I got a lot of buyers looking in there right now. And I talk about Seacrest Beach because it's been the top contender in like that 1.3 to 1.8 range, especially on the east end, because the rental rates are good. But it's also, when you compare it to like Alys Beach and Rosemary, is such a discount for being right there in that same area, right? Like you get to enjoy all those amenities, walking all those shops. You're right there in the middle of it. So average sales price up 20%. Let's look at this. Average days on market, 97 this time, this quarter. Last year at this time, 123 days. So it's down 20% on the average days of market. Active listings right now, this is a big talking point, just 25 compared to 36 this time last year, right? So down 30% on that number. And that's been the biggest game changer in my eyes, is that Seacrest Beach has been steadily running through that inventory. So the months of inventory right now in Q2 26, 6 compared to 18 last year, because you had that increase in volume of number of listings, but the sell-through rate and the average days on market it was taking to get there was forever. So look at that. Down to 6 months of inventory. Amazing. Amazing for Seacrest Beach. So it echoes why we've had so many people calling us about it and why you've heard me speak about it so much. WaterSound, gated community of WaterSound. This is not Origins, okay? This is going to be talking about like WaterSound Beach, WaterSound Bridges, all that area. When you're going past the Big Chill, all that on the south side of the road. Number of sales in 2026, Q2 17, up from 6 last year. That's 180% increase. WaterSound Beach is rocking. Sold volume up 75%. Was it 74 million this year? Last year was it 42 million in Q2. Let's look at days on market. Actually, days on market is up 20%. Active listings down 30%. Okay. That's super interesting, right? What's that average sales price? 2026, it was 4.3 million. Last year, it was 7 million. That's crazy. Wow. On 6 sales. They had some big stuff sell last year. So down 30%, but number of transactions is what we're interested in there. Up 180%. It matches. That's more in line with what 38 East End in general is doing. Let's look at the condos. Not many transactions. 4 this year. It was 1 last year. So that's a tremendous increase. Average sales price, 2.4, down from 3.1. Very small snapshot. WaterSound Beach seems to be staying in line with what we're seeing of 38 East in general. Seaside. Love Seaside. Everybody's going there. I tell you guys this every year. You're not going to see many transactions. However, in Q2 this year, we held 3 transactions. Last year was actually a big quarter for Seaside in 2025. Had 6 transactions, so 3 and 6. So that's going to move the needle quite drastically, down 50%. But listen, it is not indicative of anything with Seaside. Seaside remains our flagship. It's hard to get in there. We're not going to, what's the inventory level right now? Active listings, 5. Okay? Like, that's Seaside. You're not going to see a lot of turnover in there. So we can go through these numbers, but Seaside's Seaside. It's a very specific taste for a buyer, and the sellers don't like to sell. They love to hold on to it. Becomes a generational thing. And so we talk about Seaside. We love Seaside. But from a real estate standpoint, we don't get to really dig into the numbers because the snapshot's really a little bit too small in total to really dig into. WaterColor, here's a big one. So WaterColor, tremendous time over the last year. It's been one of our hottest communities in terms of, let me say this, one of our most consistent. I hesitate to use the word hot for anything. One of our most consistent communities, okay? Number of sales, Q2 2026, 22, up from 12 last year. That's up 80%, okay? Sold volume, 72 million versus 42 million this time last year, up 70%. Well, we felt that, haven't we? We've been talking about WaterColor. Even the rental companies love WaterColor. Everybody did. Average sales price, 3.3 million, down from 3.5 last year, so minus 7%. So again, that's following trend with 38 East End, is it not? You go up on the number of transactions, but you had to suffer a little bit on the average price point. It's tough for me because that market is doing really well, so I think that's more inventory driven than anything. Average price per square foot, 1,000 versus 968, so that did go up. That makes sense. We've been seeing that. Boy, it's been hovering on or above, depending on how old the house is, right around 1,000 a foot. Condos, not many sales. 2 versus 1 last year, not much to talk about. Houses, here's a big one. Here's the biggest new mover for WaterColor for me. Q2 this year, sitting on 23 active listings in WaterColor, homes and townhomes, okay? Last year, we're sitting on 52. Man, that's a big swing. Months of inventory right now in WaterColor, 3. This time last year, 12. Raise your hand, WaterColor buyers. You feel that, right? If it's out there in that 2.5 to 3.5 range and it looks good, it's not taking them long to get there, right? And we're running out of inventory, okay? So again, that's matching the pattern on 38 East End. Rosemary didn't. Very selective, like little snapshot. We're not laying any blame on Rosemary for not being a part of the party, but I'm just trying to show you by each community who's kind of following trend. Okay. Grayton Beach, did you have any sales? Number of sales this year, 1 versus 1 last year. Again, Grayton Beach acts like Seaside, guys. Active listings right now, though. Here's a storyline in Grayton. And I've been noticing this, and I will say, Grayton is a place, in my opinion, in 2026, some people just need to leave the market because they're priced too high. And I think it's messing up the numbers a little bit. People love Grayton Beach, but I think too many people came on at a stretch price. I've noticed that because look at this. Active listings for homes and townhomes right now in Grayton Beach, it's up to 21 from 12 last year. So it's up 75% in the number of homes that are on the market. So that's going to get tricky, right? Like that's what's weighing you down. Let's see, they haven't had 4 versus 3 transactions, but when you've got 21 listings out there for Grayton, that's a lot. So what's going to happen there is some sellers are just going to leave the market because they're just not going to be able to pull it off. Or if they really do want to sell, you're going to see some downward pressure on the price points in Grayton Beach. So in my opinion, something's going to have to give there. Something's going to have to give, and some homes are going to have to leave the market for the buyers to come back in. Does that make sense? Because when you're staring at that much inventory for Grayton Beach, it can cause pause, and I think that's exactly what's going on in Grayton right now, okay? Everybody talks about it. WaterSound Origins, 2026 Q2 numbers. They're in. Let's just take a look at them. Number of transactions in Q2, 52. That's up from 30 this time last year. That's up 70%, okay? Sold volume, Q2 2026, 75 million, up from 43. That's up 70% as well. So the average sales price, if those two are even, you know it's going to be pretty even. Average sales price in Origins, 1.44 versus 1.55, down 2%. Again, 38 Origins seems to be following trend of the entire 38 East corridor, which saw their number of transactions go up, but their price point fell a little bit. Look, it's hard to throw a blanket over Origins. There's so much variety in there, but that's the story. Let's look at inventory because that was a big talking point this time last year. Q2 2026, there were 69 homes on the market. Last year, 89. So down 20% on the active inventory, which brought the months of inventory down to 5 from 8. So that's a big storyline. The transactions are up, but we think it's because that the listings are down. Sold through very consistently, took those away. Not running hot, very consistent. And honestly, it's not hard to find that little price point where you need to be in Origins. They're out there. If you hit it, they will come to you. Okay. 30A, East and West, both up on the number of transactions they're doing, and we felt that. East End had to suffer on price point a little bit to get there. West End did not go up on the number of transactions as much of a percentage as the East End, but they did go up in price point, which is different than the East End. You see how much that can change, right? So that's 30A's breakdown of the market update from Q2 2026. All right, so here we go. So Sandestin 2026 Q2 performance. Now, if you've heard me talk any over the last couple of weeks, you know Miramar Beach had an outstanding quarter. Sandestin snuggled right up in there. There can be two different segments because kind of what goes on in Sandestin is like Sandestin. But let's go in here and see if those numbers in Sandestin matched what happened down in Miramar Beach. Number of transactions, Q2 2026. This is just single family homes. 48, up from 35 last year. So that's up 37%. Not bad, right? Sold volume, 91 million. 2026, up from 40 million last year. That's 113% increase. So what's going to happen to the average sales price if those are aligned? So average sales price in 2026, 1.9 million, up from 1.2 million. That's up 56%. Listen, that is a big increase for Sandestin. That's a great average price point for Sandestin right there. 1.9 million with the diversity of inventory they have over there. Fantastic. Let's look at this though. Average days on market, 82 in Q2 2026, 85 last year. Let's call that flat. Here's what I'm interested in. Inventory. Look, active listings, 81, up from 69 this time last year, and they're flat on months of inventory. So listen, the number of transactions in Sandestin are up, and the sold volume is up, okay, meaning the average price point is up, but also the inventory is up. Listen, there's a lot of that doesn't make sense. Like if I laid it out for you and said, hey, look, the inventory is up, you're not going to tell me that the average price point went up like it did, right? Just not usually how it happens, okay? So let's look at condos. Number of transactions, 34 versus 32 last year. Let's call that flat. So condos are staying away. Let's see number of active listings, 230 in there versus 240. Very flat in the condo world in Sandestin, okay? So listen, on early look, Sandestin, very steady. Actually, the price point in Sandestin average of 1.9, that's impressive because they have a wide diversity of homes in there, and that can drag that number down. So to maintain and to go up so much to 1.9 is a really impressive performance by Sandestin in Q2. Burnt Pine specifically, 15 transactions over 4 last year. Listen, this one's interesting. Burnt Pine Q2 2026, sold volume 48 million versus 9.5 last year. I saw that. I was carrying a listing Q2 last year, and it was difficult, okay? What's even more interesting is the number of listings is the same. So it's not like they ran low on listings, but the sell-through is happening in there. They're performing well. And that's going to bring that average price point in Sandestin way up. Okay, listen, here we go. Miramar Beach, Q2 2026. This is one that stood out to me. The numbers don't lie. Let's dive into it. On homes, number of sales, 42, up from 24 last year. That's up 75%. Sold volume, 55 million, up from 21 million last year, 150% increase. So listen, what does that mean to the average sales price? Average sales price in Miramar Beach, Q2 26, 1.3 million, up from 885 this time last year, up 40%. Okay. Active listings, here's a big part, 126, down from 145 last year. Okay. Bringing the months of inventory to 11 versus 17. That's an amazing performance by Miramar Beach. And honestly, one of the leaders across the board, because not only were they able to, remember, they didn't sell as many, they had a larger increase in the number of sales than 38 East End, but they didn't have to sacrifice their price point to do it. In fact, they went up 40% on their average sales price. So, West End went up 18 and I think 16 on average home sale, on number of transactions, home sale. Miramar Beach is the winner. Miramar Beach put on the gloves and went and took down 30A on the things that matter most, which is the number of transactions and the average price point. Amazing job, because they really didn't lose a lot of inventory. They're only down 13% on their inventory, right? So it's not like it went crashing. That's great that they had some movement. Let's look at condos, number of sales, 38 versus 51. They're actually down on condo sales, down on that volume. Average sales price down a little bit. So the condos didn't do as well as the homes did. But I think the storyline is the homes. The homes woke up in Miramar Beach and had an amazing, amazing quarter. And I think it's because they've got a wide variety of things down there. And I saw a lot of the upper end stuff coming alive. And Miramar Beach is a sneaky little pocket, right? Right in between Sandestin and Destin. A lot of great inventory. You can get to 30A if you want to. It's always been a little sweet spot. But I mean, that's showing up. That's really, really, really good performance on single family homes in 26 versus 25 for Miramar Beach. And to be honest with you, I didn't see it coming. Really surprised by that and very happy for them. Gulf Front, did they have any transactions? 1 versus 0 last year. Not much to go by. Condo sales, though, on the Gulf went up 6%. Really just not a lot of inventory to discuss there. Destin, Florida, Q2 2026. Let's look at the numbers. Number of sales, 69 in Q2 2026, up from 64, so up 8%. Sold volume, up 2%. Average sales price, down 6%. Let's see active listings, down 3%. Listen, Destin, Florida homes, I put this on my market update this week. Let's call it flat and consistent. There's nothing wrong with that. Look, it's better than the alternative of potentially going down. But those numbers are relatively flat. That's okay. Then you know what you need to sell it for. Then you know what you need to do to get something sold. Let's look at the number of active listings. 189 versus 195 last year, so down 3%. Listen, it's keep on doing it, Destin. Let's look at condos, though. They have a lot of condos. 42 transactions in Q2 versus 46 last year, down 9%. Average sales price down 4%. Listen, flat earth down there, right? Nothing wrong with it. Destin's super consistent. So if you're a buyer or a seller, you know what you need to do. Like the math is there, right? Like that's super consistent across the board. Destin Gulf Front, they have any transactions? Condo transactions, 39 versus 40, flat. Jeez, come on. Y'all can say it out loud for me on Destin. You know what it's going to be. It's flat across the board. And again, nothing wrong with that. There's times where people would beg to be flat. So listen, what a compelling market update, right? I think the biggest headlines for me, and I just did this on my Monday. If you're not watching my weekly update, we dig into this all the time. Q2 was super intriguing to me and probably the most volatility that we saw in the last couple of years, just in the number of transactions. And the first time that we really talked about downward pressure on the listing inventory to a measurable amount as a whole. We haven't been discussing that. Inventory has actually been the storyline. Almost like, hey, if we can work through some of this inventory. In some places, they sold through a lot, but it cost them some average sales price. In 2 other places, They sold through tremendous inventory and they raised the average sales price. Man, that's a nice trend. But all total, the inventory level either stayed flat like it did around Destin and Miramar, or it really went down in some pockets, specifically the east end, but in the percentage teens on the west end. So there's some really good trends out there. But my storyline on this is that when we talk about it each Monday on the market update, the reason why we watch that inventory in relation to the pending sales is because we've been watching for 2 years now. 2 years, the pending sales stay super consistent. We've also been watching that the active inventory has remained consistent. So when you have those things converging, something's going to give. And the trend has been that the pendings have gone up more than we've seen newer inventory coming on, right? So they're starting to meet. Now, what this is going to mean for Q3, I'm super interested. Like there's some compelling trends out there, and I'm wondering who can hold pace. But I can tell you, we always go by Casey's phone, and it's active. So I'm not going to jump out there yet because we're still in summer. I want to see how August, September kind of feel. But man, if we keep this pace, what's that inventory going to look like? You know, are there going to be some pockets out there where you're like, man, maybe I should come to market because there's not much out there? There's already situations like that in neighborhood specific. But here's my other talking point that I want to leave you with regarding Q2. Our market from Inlet Beach down to Destin, it is impossible to throw a blanket on it. Don't ask an agent or a neighbor, how's the market as a whole? It's impossible to be truthful and factual with a statement like hot, steady, good, I like it. You need to ask that next question, which is, which mile are we talking about? The vast difference between 38 east and west. The vast distance between what WaterColor did and Rosemary did this quarter. Right? There's storylines all over the place. Look what Alys did. Look what Alys Condos finally did. Look what Miramar Beach did. Can they maintain? Can they keep pushing that price point up and keep selling more? I'm cheering for it because honestly, they had been getting a little picked on over the last couple of years because they really haven't stepped out there and done much. Does Destin stay flat? There's so much to pay attention to, right? And it's a story. And it helps you predict what's going to happen, helps you decide when to buy and sell. And the story is buyers are out there, and if you're priced correctly, they will buy. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love doing this with you. And if you have any questions, as always, I look forward to hearing them. We'll see you soon.